So I have an article in front of me, and it's saying that there are cases, in this particular case, of a man who is raping multiple teenage girls, some as young as 14. And as a punishment in the UK, he gets a fine. He gets slapped a fine of 26 pounds per incident, which is roughly the equivalent of like 50 US dollars, or maybe a little bit less because the pound sterling has lost a lot of value in the last decade. But no jail time. I mean, you talk about a slap on the wrist. Are you kidding me? Can you imagine the trauma that this is causing these people, of his actions? And this is the degree of punishment that he gets. There's people in the UK who are in prison for what they said, for speech, for quote unquote hate speech. You look at Tommy Robinson, who was in solitary confinement, essentially for his speech. So speech, according to the UK justice system, is more dangerous than raping girls as young as 14. It's there is something obviously very, very wrong with that. It seems like to me that that the West in general, the United States and Australia, Canada, and Western Europe, have just been taken over by, in key positions, by really, really evil people that are really seriously evil people. And it's coming out of the universities. It's coming out of specifically this nihilistic philosophy from the universities. It's coming from the political corruption with, in the United States, we have foreign governments that lobby what our foreign policy should be. It's coming out of these blackmail operations run by intelligence agencies, Epstein being front and center of this. But there are others, by the way. It's not just that one. And and the public can't really do very much about it, because every time we get a leader, let's say someone like a Donald Trump, he's put in a position where, yeah, he means well and he tries to say, secure the border, or he says America first, right? But we do the bidding of foreign countries like Israel. What kind of a situation are we in? I think it's becoming more and more obvious that essentially it's like we're being occupied by foreigners, people that do not represent each respective Western country, that are not, or creating a system of injustice and essentially destruction. Like, it's anti-reason. It's a psychological and physical abuse of the citizens. Mass immigration, they're being replaced economically and physically. And literally, it's the destruction of the West in real time, in relatively short order. In my lifetime, I'm actually watching the destruction of these countries, a very rapid destruction of these countries. And it's in lockstep. Every Western country is doing this. And it's for the reasons that I've already mentioned before. It's the essentially organized crime at the very top, and it's the philosophy that comes out of these colleges and universities. This is something that people have been talking about for a long time, and elected Trump to do something about that here in the United States, but instead we get a foreign policy that benefits Israel instead. Or you continue to get this slide. Boris Johnson was elected in the case of the UK to do something about that, and he was just very much a part of the establishment. So, people look at this and they're thinking, what the hell is going on? They voted for Brexit in the UK. Nigel Farage is like being co-opted by the system. What the hell is going on up there? What goes on in London? What goes on in Ottawa, where, they do policies that shut down the tar sands in Alberta. One of their main sources of revenue in Canada. What is going on with, in Germany, where they sacrifice their industry, their economy, their people essentially for, the edicts of the West. Like, oh, you have to you have to allow all these foreigners in your country, and you have to shut off natural resources that are coming out of Russia. And I'm not saying Russia's perfect, but is Germany not an independent country? It's not acting like one. We don't have our own countries. We are being occupied by this international cabal that are nihilistic, and I, to be perfectly blunt, hates these countries. Like, the people running the United States hate the United States. The people in the UK hate the people of the UK, and so on and so forth. What business do we have, talking about the breakup of Iran and the breakup of Russia, which, by the way, would not make the world more secure. Just the opposite, would make it less secure, because Russia with nuclear weapons, can you imagine that country being broken up and having security problems, with thousands of nuclear weapons? I don't think that's a good idea at all. And it would not be to the interest of anybody in the West to do that. But here we are. I'll put a link in the description below this article, but I'm almost, aside from what I've said, I'm at this point kind of a loss for words. I think the key here, the solution, is rationality. People need to learn how to think for themselves and to start projecting that out from themselves, and you start locally, and then hopefully over time that fixes the system. But we're in quite a pickle right now in each of our respective countries.